We've had conversations about Triple H. We had the conversation about what if Triple H had won the curtain call back in 1996. But you know, sometimes things happen for a reason. Triple H ended up becoming one of the biggest heels, not just in WWE but in the wrestling business. If you say otherwise, just ask good old JR. He'll explain it for you himself. But and especially how he's learned the business from his predecessor, Vince McMahon, and how he's done a fantastic job. I mean, now Raw on Netflix, everything else, you see what he's also doing, not only with the men's, but also with the women's. You've seen the impact that he's doing behind the scenes. Him and Sean with NXT. And he's done a lot for this business. And not only as a wrestler but also behind the scenes. And I think we should give him more respect because again, people just knock him because of the McMahon family. And I can't give you the exact quote in which Vince told him as a result to the curtain call, but it goes somewhere along the lines, you're gonna have to learn how to eat bleep and like the taste of it. And he had to overcome a lot, with D Generation X with Sean. I mean, Sean at that point was dealing with substance abuse problems, and Sean had to retire back in 1998. And he helped DX even with Sean's departure. Let's not forget. Remember when him, rest her soul, China, X Pac, and them. Remember when they invaded WCW?
Yes, indeed.
And let's not forget his return back to the WWE. I think it was in 2002. Just his entrance, his presence, and then of course Evolution. Him and Ric Flair played a huge role as far as the development with Batista and Randy Orton. But Triple H, man, as far as like with heel, the sledgehammer, how the way he used sledgehammer on Shawn on SummerSlam 2002, or with Raw's Homecoming back to the USA Network, how he used the sledgehammer on Flair, and all the other matches that he's put up, the psychology. I'm glad that Triple H finally is getting, he deserves his due. And I was happy when I saw the first episode Raw on Netflix. Did you see how the way that he came in the beginning of the episode? That was just hands down, man. So, and he was there for all of the eras, the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Era, every other era that you could think of. Triple H was there, and it just tells you not only his brilliance as a wrestler, but also up here. And he knew a lot. I mean, gave a lot of great advice to the guys. Remember Tough Enough?
Hmm.
So shout outs to Triple H, man. Champ, what are your thoughts?
Triple H, man. Oh, we forgot to mention he was in the new generation there. That's where he got first
I
introduced.
forgot. My mind's all over the place.
Hey, man, that's a brilliant mind, brother. So,
Yeah.
hey, you got to use it. You can't spit out everything. Sometimes the mind travels faster than the mouth. I know I'm guilty of it. Uh, let's not forget how humble his beginnings was. Remember, his beginnings was he was terrorizing in the WCW. Remember, he was tag team partners with William Regal for a little bit when he was down there in WCW. They didn't know what to do with him down in WCW, so he ended up going to the WWE. What's so funny about him leaving WCW is Eric Bischoff offered him more. He offered him $100,000 a year in order to stay. But Triple H turned it down. He said, by the time I get through in the WWE, you'll pay me a double or triple to come back. So, and one thing you gotta admire about Triple H, and that's one thing that I took from Triple H as a young kid, and even in my adult life. Hey, you gotta want it. Triple H was a bodybuilder, and his one goal was to be in the business. When he first went to a wrestling show, the first thing he wanted to do is put his stuff in front of Ric Flair, but he got it in front of a talent scout that gave him a trial with WCW. And when you think about a lot of the stars that he was behind, a lot of the guys were bigger than he was at the time. I do stress at the time. When you think about Kevin Nash, you think about Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall, X-Pac, Six, whichever one you want to call them, 1, 2, 3 Kid. They were bigger stars than him at first. He surpassed all of them. He surpassed every last one of them. He didn't do any of the a lot. And if there's a lesson in anything that you don't have to do what your friends do, look at Triple H. All of those guys who he used to hang with, they all suffered with their own demons in terms of substance abuse. Triple H didn't touch the stuff. Triple H, everybody in the clique, they said that Triple H was always the level head of the group because he didn't drink, he didn't do any of that. The only thing he wanted to do was go to work and work out. So if that's any example of, okay, yeah, you guys are having fun, but I'm gonna do things the right way and I'm gonna go my own way and lift weights and learn the business from front to back and be a student of the game, that's a prime example of that. And when people say, "Boy, birds of a feather," hey, you never heard about Triple H being found nowhere where he wasn't supposed to be. So if that's any example of how serious he took his career and how serious he took the business, it was that right there. And I'll forever admire Triple H for that. Because like I said, when you think about some of the guys who he was hanging out with back in the day, guess what? Yeah, those guys was into a lot of crazy stuff. But like I said, Kevin Nash, everybody said every time you saw him, he wasn't drinking. He was in that gym pumping iron. He was learning stuff. He was doing his research on stuff. And if that's any indication of, hey, just because you're in an environment where people are influenced by other things, that doesn't necessarily mean you got to do it. And people can be your friends, but guess what? You can go your own way and do your own thing, even when you're friends with those guys or, young women. You don't necessarily have to just go down the same path just because your friends are doing something. And I think if there's any example of that story, I think that we can all use is that right there. Shawn Michaels had substance abuse problems. They said Kevin Nash had it for a little bit. They said Scott Hall, we all know the story. X-Pac, you know the story. Triple H, not only did he surpass those guys in popularity, he's on top of the business at this point. So
it's amazing to me how during that time he stayed level-headed compared to the rest of them. Because you would have thought, hey, if I was going down with them, I would end up in the same problems. But he always still stayed mild-mannered, and that's what's so great about him, and just his business savvy, just how brilliant he is. BRF, man.
Man, yeah. I mean, you said it at the beginning of another segment, y'all. Y'all know I've been kind of riding or dying with Triple H as far as like him getting his own year to be the headline act for the WWE Hall of Fame. And I saw the video with, they just thought they were doing like just mainly like promotional stuff, him and Nick Khan. And then Shawn Michaels came out, then Undertaker came out, and then basically it was just, they revealed to him that not only are you going to be the headline act for the Hall of Fame, Nick Khan was done on it too. So Nick Khan knew about it too. So it just you can only imagine the emotions that were going through him and him seeing what he means to the people around him in that company right now. I mean, it couldn't do nothing but just made him feel like the best man possible, like he's on cloud nine or something. But he deserves this. I mean, the man he's done so much for the business. I mean, his and say what you want about Triple H as far as like a lot of people didn't like his wrestling style, him being, 260, 265, 270, but like not like your traditional, like you see a lot of the 270, 75-pound guys nowadays. They're like kind of like the power base game, nothing too innovative, not necessarily technical. Like Triple H's technical prowess in the wrestling ring should not be slept on. The man was a very, very, very good wrestler, and him getting the recognition now is well deserved. I mean, he's got really more moments than you could count. Like, when he going back to his DX, the beginning of DX, those days with Shawn Michaels and the shenanigans and everything they did, everything they put Sergeant Slaughter through, like where they wore the face guards. When Sergeant Slaughter was in the face talking, to him because the man was always spitting in their face.
Let's not forget Monica Lewinsky.
Oh my God. The speech, oh Lord, oh my God, we don't even need to talk about that. If you know, we don't even need to bring that one up. But yeah, like the Sergeant Slaughter stuff, like they wore the face guards at first, and then he was still talking to him, and it was still bothering him. So they put the windshield wipers on the face guards, and they were just messing with him like that. And oh man, it's just like people. But at the same time, people got to understand Shawn Michaels and the evolution of his livelihood and sanity, seeing the man he used to be compared to the man he is now. Because let me tell you something, Shawn Michaels, 97, 98, before he retired, was one of the most volatile personalities you will ever see or hear about. Like a lot of his DX stuff, like just Shawn Michaels was like he was in a different tier then compared to what he is now. But going back to Triple H, like like the reformation of DX with China, RP to China, X-Pac, New Age Outlaws, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, and just like being like, making DX like a face group and one of the biggest face groups of that era, like invading WCW, cosplaying the Nation of Domination, just just so many, bro. Folks, man, let me tell y'all. Let me tell you something.
I did not realize how inappropriate that segment was until I got I did not
bro. That segment nowadays, WWE would be so canceled if that segment went on nowadays. They would get so canceled it wasn't even funny. X-Pac dressing as Mark Henry. That's all you need to know about how crazy that segment was. That's all you need to know. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. But then that whole evolution of him finally becoming the game and seeing his heel work multiply, seeing his heel work being turned up by like 1,000, like the attacks and just making people's lives miserable, whether it was Vince or whether it was The Rock or whether it was Stone Cold Steve Austin or whether it was The Undertaker or whether it was Chris Jericho or whether it was Mick Foley, whether it was Big Show, Kane, like it didn't matter. If you try to get in his way in that time frame from basically like 99 when he first turned and became a heel up until around like, I don't know, I guess like around the time where he reformed DX again with Shawn Michaels. And that 06 DX run is slept on. Y'all go to YouTube, type in DX 2006, some of those segments, and because basically this is like starting to come to like the back end of the TV14 era, where there was still some stuff that could get away with. 2006 DX, I'm telling y'all, just watch clips. More funny than anything, but man, just underrated stuff. 06 DX is underrated stuff. I'm telling you, man, talking about Triple H's career is almost like a history. It's like a history lesson. It's like history class. It's like a wrestling history class going through his career, and you can just like pinpoint like all of the great things he's done. And it's hard to really single out a lot in particular because they've all kind of morphed him into what he is now. And he deserves everything. Like this boom period that the WWE is going through right now with him at the helm. It's like I'm happy for him because I knew he could do it, but in a way, I'm not surprised because I knew he could do it. Like he just got a mind. He got a mind for the business. And I think what makes it work with him being where he is now is not just the fact that he's a wrestling savant. He's still young enough to where like he can relate to us. Like
Oh yeah.
him being
Oh
like him being in like him being in the attitude era, going through the ruthless aggression, going through all that is like he's seen like he's a little older, but he's still young enough to where it's like he still gets it when it comes to understanding like, this generation and what they like in wrestling because at the end of the day, Triple H is a student of the game. He's a fan of the business. So he's checking his social media, he's watching TV, he's checking other social media, IG, Facebook, stuff like that.
the thing
He's
was he gets ahead with the times, BRF, and that's the thing that he was trying to
bam.
tell
There
Vince
you go.
to do.
There
You
you
gotta
go.
get ahead with the
There
times.
you go. There you go. And that's really what's setting him apart. Cause like with Vince at his peak, Vince was just mainly like he wanted the edgier stuff on TV. He knew those fans then would watch it because they wanted something new. Triple H is like he's more in depth with it. He's more in tune with it. He's more methodical with it. Like he understands nowadays wrestling is more athletic than it's ever been. It's more promoted as a sport than it's ever been, and he understands that, and he's getting with the times. So he's doing everything, like the camera presentation, the sets, just the TV presentation itself. Like he's understanding so much, and he's getting with the times, like you said, and that's a lot of the reason why the product is where it is today. Because like you don't have Kevin Dunn running the camera crews anymore. They got rid of him, and you're getting like some of the best camera shots I've seen.
No,
I'm just saying.
Chip, that's a fact. Jim Cornette called him out on
Oh
it.
my God, bro!
Boy.
That's the first thing I thought about.
Boy, they got rid of Kevin Dunn, and this camera work just went up by like 1,000. Like some of the best camera shots I've ever seen is like nowadays with like particularly like with some of the TikToks, like some of the like a couple of the TikToks where they're basically going from like they hit like every single big spot in like chronological order of the match, and some of the camera shots like the Braun Breaker, like the spot where Ludwig Kaiser's trying to run from one side to hit Sheamus with that drop kick. Braun Breaker runs from the other side, catches up with him, and like they pan it out, they zoom it up, and you just see the full camera shot, and you see Kaiser getting going, and then Braun Breaker basically having like a half the ring. He basically gave Kaiser a head start, and Braun Breaker just runs clear across the other side of the ring at speeds wrestlers aren't supposed to run at, and the camera just shows the entire thing, and it's like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like and it's just Triple H understanding the fans and understanding what he needs to do to make his product what it is. And it's just like I said, it's just a testament. Whether he's a wrestler or whether he's the COO or being the chief content creator now, man, the man just it's like he understands his business. He's loved his business, but he knows what works. He sees what works, and he's going to try it. Whether it sells, whether it produces ratings, whether it doesn't, the man isn't scared to try something new. But it's just that a lot of the stuff he's doing is working. So shout out to him. I don't need to say anything more about that man that hasn't already been said. I'm proud that he's getting the headline, the Hall of Fame for WrestleMania 41. I'm glad he's getting the headline, and he deserves the headline. The question I have is who's going to induct him?
I think it should be Shawn Michaels. I mean, he has to return.
I think it's him or Steph. I think it's either going to be him or Stephanie.
Him or Steph, because I feel like, look, Shawn, Triple H did it for you at your Hall of Fame back in 2011. So I feel like you should return the favor. But if the wife is saying, look, Sean, I know, but at the same time, I'm still his woman. I'm the mother of his 3 kids. Hey, I ain't got no problem with that. No wonder why
Yeah.
Champ was laughing once BRF was mentioned Kevin Dunn. I mean, he probably had to be watching some Jim Cornette because again, Jim Cornette was saying a lot of stuff about Kevin Dunn.
That's the reason why I was laughing because him and his beef with Kevin Dunn. Because I mean, hey, people call
God.
people call Jim Cornette crazy, but hey, you got to think about it. Some of his craziness is quite valid at a certain point. So,
yeah,
a lot of Jim Cornette's craziness is valid, whether people want to admit it or not. And I didn't even realize he had I've heard him talk about Kevin Dunn on certain equations.
BRF. I cannot use the exact term, but there's this type of list that he has. If you go on YouTube, the list of people that he despises.
I think I have an idea of what I think I have a really good idea of what he calls this list. But yeah, that's definitely yeah.
The bleep.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
As soon as he saw Vince Russo's name number 1, he put him number 1. And we all know how he feels about Vince Russo.
Lord.
I hope in my lifetime I never tick a person off to the point where they hate me that much. I hope I don't ever, if I ever made anybody mad like that, I'm gonna apologize tomorrow because man, I don't ever want to make a person that mad to make them hate me that bad.
Man, I would love to be in a podcast room with the 2 Jims, Jim Cornette and Jim Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Now it just makes you feel like a child all over again. Like listen to how they speak about wrestling, the psychology of it, and everything else. It's just so. And by the way, Dark Side of the Ring is coming back. So on March, I can't wait to watch them episodes, man. But Jim Cornette, colorful. But big ups to Triple H, well deserving of the Hall of Fame. He definitely deserves every bit of it. Really happy for him. And student of the game, no question about it.